See, here's the thing. Being a black man in corporate America, yay or nay. Now, all of us work in corporate America, but we've all got varying opinions of that and whether or not you can be successful as a black man in corporate America. Now, B, you being an engineer, what's your take on it? I mean, as a black man in corporate America, can you be successful and climb that corporate ladder?
Yeah, you can, but I don't want to make that a blanket statement just to, sell you the dream because it's tough for one. And even going back to pre-engineering, you have your schooling education to go through. That's extremely tough. And then just like sitting around you guys, going through that process to get there, you're not sitting around your people. So you got that in your pocket as well. I didn't go to school with too many people that looked like me studying engineering classes, being in the field now. Still, you don't see too many friendly faces nearby. But, there are still nice people regardless. There's going to be some different races, but you can make it in there. But there's definitely a path you got to climb. You got to stick to your guns. I got a lot of good things I can chime in today. And how about you guys on it?
I want to ask a question. And this is the first thing that came to my mind when we started talking about, this topic came up.
Mm-hmm.
Can you be successful in corporate America as a black man? Yes. Can you be your authentic self and be successful in corporate America as a black man?
So, okay, good point. B, let me ask you, before you decided you wanted to be an engineer, did you have any idea of the scarcity of people of our shade in that field?
I think being younger before I started, I had an idea, but then once you get into it, it's like, holy crap. Because, you got college and high school before where you are surrounded by a little more people than like you. But then once you get in the workforce, it's like, for me, for instance, in my company, I think roughly 500 people. It's not somewhere around there. And as far as we're nationally based, and as far as Detroit, I am the black guy in the Detroit office. So,
the lone.
Yeah.
Now,
so,
see, I
kind of answers
for
that.
me, I feel like I was sold the bill of goods back in the day because we came up and
get a good job,
go to school, get a good job, you on your way,
and that's it.
So,
period.
Starting out in corporate America, I had these rose-colored glasses on. I figured, I can climb corporate ladder. Having been in corporate America since 1997, I've come to the conclusion that as a black man, you can't. You cannot be successful in corporate America. And let me tell you why I feel that way. Various experiences, that I've had, and you hear everything from yeah, you can do it to no, you can't. And by me saying no, I don't want to make it seem like I'm bitter or anything like that. I've had a certain measure of success.
Yeah.
But I see it for what it is now.
Yeah, and there's something to that.
I would definitely, again, this is my opinion, I would definitely try to sway young brothers to go in another direction as opposed to corporate America, because you come into it and you're jaded. But once you see it for what it is, it becomes a burden almost, because it's like you have to be, Carl, to your point, your inauthentic self. I'm not one to, quote unquote, play the game. So, Carl, let me ask you, what's your definition of playing the game?
Well, to Brandon's point, and a lot of times once you get into your position, depending on what your aim and your goal is, you may be the lone POC is the term now, person of color for those who don't.
You go.
And I had to learn that acronym myself. I just say black man because usually that's what it is, or black
That's
woman.
what we know.
Right, that's what we know. Playing the game really is getting to know what your peers and superiors expect from you and how to navigate their language and their expectations. That can be tricky when you're trying to be your authentic self because, and this is as a black man, and I found I've had to do this. And I'll just say it like this. A white person can say, we're not doing that. That's not going to happen. And we're going to do it this way. We're moving in another direction. Black man can say the same thing. And he can be called to the carpet and say, hey, you know, that was a little aggressive.
True.
You may, you know, just this a different way you can say that. Now, said the same thing, same way as my white peer, my white counterpart, but I'm shown as aggressive. So a lot of ways playing the game is I have to go into a room and say, hey, have we thought about it like this? Let's look at these, you know, let's look at this scenario a little differently from a different lens. That's playing the game because I know that I can't be who I am or say it the way they say it in order to get the same result.
Because see, I found a couple of things. And one thing that struck out to me was your definition was almost on point to what I would consider to be the white definition. Teaching yourself how to anticipate situations and learning how to always think beyond your job description. So it's almost, and in my opinion, that's the white definition. Black definition for me is ass kiss.
I was about to say,
because if somebody tells me to play the game, initially when I heard the term, I was like, oh, you just got to play the game. And as years went by and decades, I'm sitting back saying, looking at other black people that call themselves playing the game, they hit a ceiling. So you ain't going no further than where they let you go. So being the lone black man in the room, which it sounds like we've all been there. For me, the way that I've navigated that situation is I've been able to sit back and just observe. You know, because what's the proverb? It's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt.
Exactly.
So for me, I'm a very observant person. I'm sitting in meetings just observing. Carl, to your point, when you do that, they take that, they being the majority, as you not being engaged.
Oh.
And if you do speak up and it's deemed aggressive, you already know what you're going to be labeled at.
Yep.
The angry black man.
The angry black man.
How the hell we got to that point? I don't know. But I get offended by that assertion because we don't hear the conversations that are being taken place. And I think we've all probably been in a situation where you walk in the room and it's them talking and all of a sudden conversation kind of tails off.
Yep. Definitely happens.
You already know. You know, and I think for me, one example, I was at a health symposium years ago, just starting off. And it was me and another young black guy. He was a little older than me. We were on a panel. And we were talking and we had a break, lunch break. So me and him, of course, we're one of the few that's there, so we just gravitate towards each other.
Yeah,
because y'all know that nod. You see somebody, you see another brother.
It's lunchroom mentality.
Yep.
If you don't get the nod, I can't mess with you.
Right.
That's a problem.
Because you already know he's assimilated himself.
Exactly.
So me and him are sitting there just having a conversation. Generally, white lady walks over to me. Eugene, I've got some questions. So I said, okay, fine. We talking. So I just want to tell you, you know, you're so well spoken. My initial reaction, I almost wanted to scissor kick this lady.
When keeping it real goes wrong.
Yeah, I mean, how dare you? You tell me I'm well spoken, and that to me that goes into the whole thing about code switching.
Yeah, and stereotypes and
right, and you know, because when you're code switching, you're supposed to vacillate between being yourself and being the professional you. And that's where I think over my years being in corporate America, I've just gotten to the point where I'm tired, you know, and naturally, Carl, you know, this is how I speak. This is my professional voice. This is my regular voice. Now, mind you, when we hang in, it's going to be the
words will be different.
Exactly. Yep. You know, so for me, that's one of the ways that I've gotten to this point of just being like, I'm not going to do this, you know, and I can't, you know, see myself getting any higher than where I am. So the point that I'm at now is I am very, you know, comfortable in terms of my job and how to do it. I could do my job with my eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not looking to ascend any higher because from a pay point, I'm good. So for the young brothers that are coming into it, I would really be frank and honest with them and say, look, man, if you want to do this, it's going to be hell. I was looking at Fortune 500.
Mm-hmm.
They started that list back in 1955.
Mm-hmm.
And Fortune magazine started it. And, for those of you who don't, it's the 500 largest companies in the United States. And of those 500 companies, over the, almost 70 years that list has been in existence, 1,800 CEOs. Guess how many Black?
I'm going to say 5.
19.
Ooh.
That's
That's
You
good.
see his reaction. Ooh.
The
First Black CEO to make the Fortune or to head a Fortune 500 company, 1987.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, 1999.
Ooh.
We currently have 8 Black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. 6 of them are male, 2 are female. So with those numbers like that, how can you, Brandon,
Mm-hmm.
talk to somebody your age that's coming into the game and convince them that, hey, you can climb that ladder?
Yeah. And funny you brought that up. I was doing some research on the Fortune 500 too. And another reassuring stat I found is that on the executive senior level side, only 3%, well, 3.2 if you want to be exact, 3.2% of employees are at executive/senior level positions. So again, those numbers are not, good. But what I can say is, out the gate, it's going to be hard to get to those senior level positions because there are some of our other racial counterparts that, the phrase, it's all about who you know, can shake some hands and get there. But what I do see noticing going on is, time does move on in this world. And in the business I'm in and other similar businesses, it's not just the most talented or the most guy that shakes the hand. It's the hardworking guy too. And I think being as a Black man coming in corporate America, you already know out the gate you have to work harder. That's just a given, I think your parents going to tell you that. And if they don't, your friends going to tell you that, or you're going to learn it yourself, I put in an extra hour. Sometimes I skip lunches. So I already do the work hard, but it pushes me ahead. So back to the ascension, I think in the next decade or in the future coming up now, you look at the landscape of businesses right now. A lot of these CEOs that we refer to and look at these spots, look at their ages right now. For instance, my company, my CEO just backed out because of ages. A lot of these CEOs in high managerial positions are going to dissolve very soon due to their ages. If you look where they've been in there from 50, 20 years ago to now, they're reaching the ages where these CEOs legally have to step down and there's gaps to be filled. These managerial boards have to step down. And the question is now in the next 5 to 10 years, who's going to fill those spots?
Here's to your point. Looking at stats, baby boomers, they would last an average of 8+ years in their job.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to skip all the way to millennials and Gen Z.
Gotcha.
2+ years. So back in the day, like we said, you got a good job.
Mm-hmm.
You stayed there until they asked you to leave. That's just the way it was. If you got into particularly if it was a Fortune 500 company, we're in Detroit, if you got in the plant, that was it. If you were 18 and you got in the plant, you was 65 and you left.
Yep.
That was
grandparents.
That was just it.
I know. Yep.
Or the same thing if you worked for, if you were driving a truck, you went from one trucking company, you stayed there for a while, went to another one, whatever. You were a trucker. The issue with even with those executive level positions opening up, this generation isn't going to stay in those positions long enough or in those companies long enough to get to that level.
Agree. Yeah.
One of the things that you're looking at in corporate America is, and I think the advice I would give to people is, you're your own employee. If you're going in, whatever skill set that you have, if it's a particular position, like if you are an engineer, if you are a lawyer, whatever, okay, I'm going to be with this firm until I gain this particular, these tools, and I'm going to move on to somewhere else where there may be another opening. I don't think that you can be successful staying in one particular place for a long period of time because you'll both get tired of each other. I do, however, believe that you can be successful in corporate America if you define your own level of success.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I have a lot of conversations with people about that where, you get the job and you get, there's the line at job and career where some people go and it's like, I get tired of this. I don't want to do this. I've had friends that I went to, engineers as well. I went to this company and I do this thing every day. And if, life went on, I would do this same thing every day until I retire. And of course, he hated that, left, did something different. I think you need to, if you're going to go that route, you need to find something that is not going to, put you in a box where you do the same thing. You're going to need variety. Just like life, you don't eat the same food every day. So for work-wise, you don't want to do the same thing forever. So that's what's going to help you out too. If you can find something where today I did this, tomorrow I'll do that, next year I did this, next year I did that, next year I did that. That helps too. That variety is going to help you out versus, I just drew this circle for 40 years. I'm mad now. Versus I drew a circle, triangle, square. You got variety.
But you see, Carl, you were talking about ascending. And I think that the only way you can do that is to build your own, to build your own company, because I personally don't think I'm going to be around to live and see the day where we just have an influx of Black male CEOs.
Yeah, I won't even probably.
I think because right now we are a needle in a haystack just in corporate America. And Carl, to your point about, people coming in and staying in positions. I remember about 10 years ago, my boss, white guy, I hadn't been at the company 6 months. And for whatever reason, my office was across the way. And our chief medical officer who left the company, her office was right next to his. So he came down to my office. Hey, Gene, why don't you move down to the big office? I'm like, well, I'm good. Now, come on down. Okay, fine. He said, this is a way we can, build our relationship. Okay. Get down there. So he would step into my office just ad nauseum whenever you want to talk about something. But I'm not the type of person, and it's not a racial thing, but I don't really talk personal with them at work.
Yeah, boundaries.
And it's interesting because I've had people come to me and say, well, Eugene, I see you, laughing and joking, but when we talk, that's because you this color. I don't have nothing to say to you personal. And we talk, we kicking it. But I know how to keep business. But he told me, he said, every job he has ever had was because of someone that he knew. And that, when he said, that stuck in my head. And for us, it's entirely different. The struggle is real. The times that I've been in between jobs, that my job was finding a job. And I couldn't reach out to nobody because didn't have anybody. For instance, one of the downfalls that I see in corporate America from an African American perspective is we don't have mentors. If there is a mentor, they're not reaching down to pull us up. Like other ethnic groups. I remember one time I was at the corporate headquarters and I went down there for something, but I was on the elevator. Older white gentleman got on the elevator, had a young white female with him. And they're on the elevator. And of course, you can hear everybody's conversation and they have no filters. So he told her, he said, I'm taking you up to the C-suite to introduce you because these are people you need to know. And I said to myself, damn it, nobody ever did that. I've never heard of a Black executive reaching down, hey, brother, come on over here, man. And at that particular company, I had a Black female mentor. Greatest. I mean, she would keep it real, the whole nine. Unfortunately, after I left the company, she left soon after. But, you know, she told me, she said, Eugene, you know, I just want to help you in any way I can. I would go up to her office. We would talk. I'd bounce stuff off of her. And I think that's something that if Black men are going to climb that ladder, we need that.
Agreed. 110%.
Because other ethnic groups have it. And that's what makes them, you know, able to go to the C-suite.
Exactly.
You know, we looking at it as, ooh, that's the holy grail. But guess what? If you have the mindset of, I'm going to make it, then Brandon, to your point about hard working, that's how I grew up. I didn't have time to brown nose and kiss butt because my parents taught me, if you work hard, it's going to pay off. Now, I ain't going to lie. I'm not staying after and working through no lunches. Now you can do that, B, because you young. So, but I'm not doing that.
This is, and you hit on just about everything I was thinking. I have no problem with us building our own. I encourage it. I have and have had entrepreneurial endeavors outside of corporate America. My kind of, I don't know, anxiety, I guess, comes into play when our age group, particularly who have been through it, tell a younger generation, man, it's a lot. You might as well just start your own. But we've been through it. And we know different avenues and different levels of work expectation, different levels of structure that we've learned from corporate America. We also have learned, like you said, I'm not staying after. I know that, you know, I work 9 to 5, but when you have your own, there is no staying after. You 24/7.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of the younger people will look at it like, well, I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to be my own boss and nobody going to tell me what to do. But then they don't have any type of structure. They don't even have mentors that they can even reach out to say, who've done this before.
Right.
A lot of that has to come from, that's a special type of person who can take a business who have never had anything and like really build it on their own. Mentorship is very important.
Agreed.
And you find that in the corporate structure. Even if you leave and start your own thing, you're still going to have those levels of, interaction that you can draw from. I don't want people to think that it's just corporate America, do your own thing.
Oh yeah.
I think that there could be a healthy mix of both. And again, defining your own level of success.
True.
Once you get a company and you want to be that mentor and pull people up and reach out and do community, outreach and all that stuff, that's a great goal to have. But you got to eat first.
Exactly.
So, I mean, how do we balance the two almost, so to speak?
Well, because sometimes I look at us as a people, and corporate America would be a good place to look at that because it's an amalgamation of society. And for instance, with mentors, I kind of feel like sometimes, and I know this happens outside of corporate America, we as a people will feel threatened by trying to help somebody out for fear that this person is going to succeed me. So then you tap into the whole crabs in a barrel mentality. So I don't know, because I don't have a problem with it. For instance, back in the day, I remember my first corporate job out of college, Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Anyway,
a lot of people did the Enterprise thing.
Lord have mercy, Jesus. They sell you a bill of goods.
Half of U of M's football team.
You
American dream.
You come in and they tell you start in as a management assistant. Then you can move up to assistant manager. Well, my first 6 months, I'm doing good. White kid comes in, hey, I want you to job shadow Eugene. He said, okay, cool. So I'm showing him the ropes or whatever the case may be. 6 months later, he's my boss. Still don't know what he's doing, but because I saw him cozying up and, going out for drinks and all this other stuff after work. Oh, okay. Next thing you know, he get his own branch. I'm still at the level that I came in with. Quite knowledgeable, but he got his own branch. not even a year or so later, got fired. So I'm saying to myself, had that been me, I wouldn't have got fired. Not for what he did. He couldn't keep his hands off of women. And this was before Me Too. I guess he figured, hey, Me Too, I'm finna grab it.
One of the pioneers.
Right. And I think that for us, when we see that, it's kind of disheartening because you're saying, well, damn, I'm working hard. It's not paying off. But then I see this person over here, they're getting all the glory. And sometimes it comes, on our backs. I never consider myself to be, physically imposing. But what I will say is, and I teach my kids this, you don't have to kowtow to anybody. Yeah. And you work hard and you stand tall. And what was the quote? Malcolm X, if you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. Firm believer in that. But of course, being a Black male, Carl, you can attest to this. You got to walk that fine line.
So I have a similar story. I'm not going to go there though, but I am going to tell another story and then pose a question to you.
Okay.
Again, first job out of college. I started losing my hair when I was like 18, 19 years old. So at 19, I said, well, rather than do the George Jefferson thing, I'm just going to shave it all off.
You ain't want a hole in your natural.
Yeah, I didn't want the inverse natural. So, but that was at a time, and this is, everybody knows how old I am. We've talked about it, but this was at a time when the Fab Five was big, and they all shaved their heads, and it was kind of a rebellious type thing. It wasn't the style at the time for, it was like if you're shaving your head, you're rebellious or you're militant or something like that. So I shaved my head because I was losing my hair. First job out of college, I go, I'm interviewing, answering the questions. I have on a suit and tie and I'm doing the whole nine and think I'm doing pretty well and I'm getting nods and, the affirmation and everything. And it was an older Black lady. These are all Black people in the room.
Oh, okay.
Older Black lady says, I just have a question. How do people react to your haircut? And I smiled. And I looked at her face and she was dead serious. And I said, I'm bald. I don't know how people react, Yeah. And I wasn't thinking what she was thinking. Exactly. She was thinking, you look militant. You looked, you look hard. And I'm going, again, like Eugene said, I don't think that I'm physically imposing. I'm a short dude. So I'm like, I'm just a guy. But I know that we've had these type of stories, which can be frustrating to people in corporate America. And my question to you is, what has your experience been? Because we're in a different generation, but has your experience been, is it still happening, I guess?
I think yes and no, because it, again, it's the environment too, because there are some, whether it's a corporate or any type of business front, you foster that behavior, right? That thought process. Now, you can say I'm lucky, blessed, whatever. I was in an environment that there weren't too many of those microaggression type stories or people, had this perception. And maybe because it's, you're in the nerdy engineering type field, all you see is numbers and, quantum physics or whatever. So I did not have that, but I still did have the, I'm the young Black guy coming in, then there's the young white guy that comes in, that's the way. It's more of the competitive based, I think, that I was put up with my back against. So I was lucky not to have those type of stories. No one said, oh, you have curly hair, you have long hair, what's up with that? I didn't get any of that.
Has your intelligence been questioned?
Oh, yeah. And I will say, I didn't get those microaggressions, but, talking on the phone, you're talking to an engineer, you don't think a Black guy is showing up to your job. So I had years of going through, you email me all the time, right? And I show up at your building, you're like, you did this? So I didn't get that, but I got a lot of, I didn't expect the Black guy to be showing up doing all this work.
So how does that make you feel in terms of, number one, your intelligence being questioned, and number two, coming into the game, I'm pretty sure that there were some instances where you learned on the fly and you saying to yourself, damn, I didn't think it was going to be like this.
Oh, yeah.
How do you handle that?
And I think coming in, you don't think like that, but, realizing this is like a life in itself. There are going to be those cases where you don't know something, because something I've learned and I realize you're going to have to continuously learn. So there are going to be minutes you don't know an answer to something, and it's okay to say, I don't know, but make sure you can do your best to, seek resources, books, whatever, to find out what you need to know so you can get back to an answer. So I figured out a way to, properly say, I don't know without, crashing the ship, whatever. And that's an art to do that as well.
No, I think you're going to ask the same thing.
I got the double whammy.
No, okay. So saying I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
How comfortable are you with saying I don't know? And
good one.
Do you see your non-POC counterparts say I don't know, and is it taken differently?
In the beginning, I was horrified to say I don't know, because that feeling exactly. But what I realized is, based off the business I have to be in, there are going to be some cases where there's stuff you don't know. Like, I just had a call yesterday with a gentleman. He called me because he didn't know something, and he's probably old enough to be my grandfather. So that's, a part of, I don't know if it's just the industry I am, because there's going to be a lot of unknowns out there. So that does help me. And of course, that's not, the situation for everybody. But what I've learned about the I don't know situation is you first have to kind of swallow that pill and get over the hump and realize I'm not going to die if I say I don't know. They're not going to fire me, but there's a proper way to do it. So you can't just say, I don't know, leave it at that.
I think the best response that I've found with the I don't know is, I don't know, but let me see what I can find out and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just leave it at I don't know.
Yeah, don't throw your hands up.
Now all of a sudden, okay. And I, early on in my career, I had issue with responding to phone calls and emails, only because in my head, let me find out the answer, then I'll respond. Well, it took a couple of complaints to my boss for him to come, white guy, and talk to me and say, Eugene, look, I've gotten some calls, you're not responding. So I explained to him, hey, man, I was working on it. He said, "What? Here's what you do," and very, very good, advice, which I use to this day. He said, at the end of the day, people want to be made to feel important.
Mm-hmm.
True.
He says, so what you can do is respond and say, hey, I'm still working on it.
Mm-hmm. And that goes a long way. And
exactly. And to this
that.
day, that's something that I use. Now, Brandon, let me ask you, in terms of, you coming aboard and learning things, was there anybody that was kind of in your ear giving you some type of mentoring advice?
Yes. So I actually started in my business via mentorship. I had a mentor in high school that does basically the same thing I do. So he was in that senior level position, and he was maybe I want to say a few years away from retirement when he started mentoring me. So he's not in the business anymore. So I was very lucky to have a mentor. And that's what, getting back to Carl, I think we do need those mentors. And that's why we kind of need more of ourselves. If we are having some younger generations coming to corporate America, mentorship goes a long way. So we do need somebody to be in the ear to give you that advice, to say, hey, this is the right way to say I don't know. Because just like answering your question, I do the same thing. I'll get however many emails a day, and there's still stuff I don't know, and there's still stuff 20 years later I'm gonna know. But I can say, oh, I've got these code books on the wall. I got Google. I can look up a quick question on how to hook this up. Or I know a guy I sit next to that's been in the business 44 years. I can definitely get an answer from him. So I can say, respond to that call, email, hey, we'll get back to you. Because I've learned, in business, yes, we got to answer questions, but it's not always immediately. And thankfully for my business, we have stuff set up where questions have to be posed in a certain amount of time. So I do have a cushion. Sometimes you'll get somebody that wants it now because it's pressing hot fire. But I think you also have to be able to overcome that I don't know fear and be somewhat assertive to say, we can't do it right now, but we can get it to you. And I learned that with my mentor as well, because he was a very firm and stern guy, but it wasn't the opposing stern, but it was, hey, we can't do this at the moment, but we're going to work at it, get you an answer out as soon as we can. And that helps.
Here's what I'll say. And that's good advice on, the getting back to, the responding, to making people feel important. That's all good advice. I've worked in call centers. I've managed call centers for a big chunk of my career. And I've tried to mentor the younger people that are in the call centers. My frustration comes in when they don't want to receive that mentorship.
Yeah.
And I can give you a couple examples. And this is just like overarching examples. I've had several people where I said, okay, basically come in, do your job. People are going to see you when you do your job. That's the first thing. They've had individuals who say, well, okay, I'm going to, I need to meet this person and I need to network over here and I need this person to know my name. And they're running around the company and departments and whatever, trying to be seen. And I'm saying to them, do your job first.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And you'll be seen from doing your job. I had a guy that I was supervising. Our company is based in California. The CEO happened to visit our office here in Michigan. Cool guy, CEO, very laid back. And he was just walking around the building from department to department, just kind of visiting before he had like some meetings and so forth. Guy on my team heard that he was walking around. He had been in the break room getting coffee, and he takes off running, trying to find the CEO because he wants to introduce himself. And I'm saying, bruh, we got phone calls that you got to take. I mean, he's walking around. And once you get to him, what are you going to say?
Exactly.
I mean, there's nothing that you're going to say that's going to make an impression on him where he's going to say, oh, come on back to California with me. I need you to work with. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Time and place.
So it's like, let's, take your time, slow. He didn't want to hear that. And I'll just say it, when I fired him, not for that, but just not for doing his job. And I told him each step of the way, you're not doing your job. And he too had these grandiose, and I'm not going to say grandiose. Let me take that back. I will. I will for him.
Go ahead.
No, for him, I will.
Go ahead.
He had these grandiose ideas of being an entrepreneur and having his own. And, all this kind of stuff, because his thing was either like, I'm going to be the CEO or I'm going to go start my own company.
Okay.
And there was no in between.
Yeah.
So again, managing what success is to you is very important. A lot of people are good with mid-level management. A lot of people are good with senior management. I've seen Black people in companies that I've worked for say that, oh, I'm going to be, VP, I've got a 5-year plan. Yeah, they do too. and that's not included.
Let me know how that works.
Yeah, and a few of them have gotten very frustrated and left the company and went to do other things, or settled into the fact that this is as high as I'm gonna go. And see
with that too, Carl, what I've noticed is you got folks that will, I don't know if they recognize it or if it's just done by happenstance, fly below the radar. And will be somewhere for 20 plus years, just flying below the radar at the same level. I know somebody that retired being a clerk.
Yeah. So here.
And I say to myself, if that's what you want, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I've always felt like, for me, there's always something bigger and better. One of the greatest things, and Brandon, you'll get there one day, is being a father, because you get to or you think you get to shape and mold, and as your children grow up, you see snippets of yourself in them. My youngest son, for whatever reason, the issues that I have with him, love him to death, but these are some of the same issues I had. So as a father, I'm sitting back saying, dude, I'm just trying to help you. And years ago, when I was a director, the company had all total 25 reports. And we had an issue with dress code. And people laughed at the stuff that's on the dress code, but guess what? The stuff is on there because somebody has done that. Somebody has worn house shoes to work. Somebody has come to work in rollers. So this is stuff, and to explain it to the younger generation, you can't do this. Got offended. Young lady had a a sleeve tattoo. We have people coming in to visit the office. We worked with the Department of Corrections, so we would have people from the DOC come in, and you got a short sleeve shirt on. So, number one, we can't be showing that. But I went to explain it to her. She got offended, called HR. And I'm saying to myself, number one, she was a white female. Mm-hmm. So you already know how that's going. Right. But again, I had to come off a certain way because I can't be aggressive. I can't be the angry black man. Mm-hmm. I tried to use anecdotes, examples, the whole nine. It just didn't work. She ended up leaving the company. But my point is, it gets frustrating when you try to do the right thing, i.e. mentoring or, just advising, and people don't take it. So Brandon, I guess I would ask you had a mentor. Are you prepared to be a mentor to someone?
Yeah, down the road, I would say yes, because I would still say it's up for debate. I'm still feeling like I'm younger in my career. So maybe when I get to the point where maybe I was, the same age my mentor picked me up, I definitely will want to pay it forward and do the same thing because I'm realistic. I look at the stats in my field. It's not going to be a lot of guys that look like me doing it. So if I could get one or two more into it, I'm happy with that.
I would challenge you saying down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's where I was going.
Yeah, because you have to be one now. And the reason I say that is there is somebody they could be in their early 20s. They could be even older than you.
True. Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a knowledge mentorship, but I think, again, it's a professionalism mentorship.
Yeah, true. And getting them in
this
the door
is what, and I guess going full circle back to starting out, this is how the game is played.
Mm-hmm. And too, to jump in, like you are saying, because I'm, the generation is Gen Z is coming to the workplace, so that is true. And I don't know the years on that, but we're hiring, everyone's hiring, so Gen Z is making their way in. Some are not coming in, mm-hmm. Some are being complained about. So yes, there is definitely opportunity and mentorship there. And also back to jump back to your previous guys' anecdotes about whether there's a clerk or whatever you do, entrepreneurship. I also think supporting both corporate America, trade, doing what you want to do. I think a big part of the working world and period is that purpose is a huge thing, because if you are working, living, doing whatever, like you're referring to fathership, if you have a purpose in fatherhood, if you have a job or a career you find purpose and value in, I think that helps a big, huge role of that. For instance, you're going to give 100%, look the part, do what you need to do for fatherhood. If you find purpose, this is my opinion speaking, with that purpose in your job, you're going to come and give the same effort, not the same effort to fathering your daughter or son, but mm-hmm. you're going to give that respect and effort to it because I have purpose in this. There's more to it than just this. And then there is the example where, I can be this clerk or whatever for 20 years. I'm cool with it. That in itself is a purpose, I'm a clerk. I get paid good money. I'm cool at the end of the day. I'm not breaking my back. I'm not stressed out. So I think that's a huge part. And I know with Gen Z coming in this mentorship where you're having difficulty with the gentleman who either wanted to be CEO or bust, that was his purpose. And then unfortunately didn't align with the situation. So I think purpose is a huge, driving force, which you don't really acknowledge because it's, in the back of our minds. But
I would agree.
Purpose and mentorship goes very deep with purpose.
Yeah, I mean, even though, and I'm not, besmirching people that want to be clerks, but mm-hmm. even in that situation, you could be a mentor.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that especially now with the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion movement that's coming, it's becoming, commonplace for companies to, have diverse employees. Unfortunately, that kind of, in my opinion, you can fall back to the whole tokenism thing, because you get a black female. Oh, I just scratched out two right there. Yep. I got a female and I got a minority. Mm-hmm. And that's how some of these companies think. And one of the things that I've seen is for some, black men, black women that have attained a certain status in a company, mm-hmm. you have to wonder, is it genuine? Because it could be a situation where you get that title just so they can have you in and be a placeholder. But guess what? You at the table, but you can't say nothing. Yeah. Or if you do say something, Ain't nobody taking you seriously.
Yeah, and something I learned about that, I don't know what the term was or what they referred to it as before the DEI movement came, but just as a forewarning, there is what is the word? How I've heard it, there are diversity requirements in the corporate world for some things where you might be selected for this contract if you have a black person on staff. You might select it if you have X amount of black people on staff. So it's not everywhere, but it is out there where there is, I don't know, goals to hit for having POCs, on staff, on the job, etc. It's out there, and we don't know about it, but it exists.
Here's the shade behind that DEI movement, because a company will say, we want diverging opinions.
Yes.
So we want to include people of color. We want to include the LGBTQ community. We want you to be seen. We want you to be heard.
Yeah.
And to me, it's all window dressing. Mm-hmm. I mean, for the most part, some companies, I'm not gonna, some companies, it's really true. They want to have different opinions. Mm-hmm. Most companies, they want you to say it and say, okay, well, thank you, Eugene. I really appreciate that perspective from the black male. Now we want to have them, they, them, give their perspective. Right. And then you get all of these perspectives, and they say, that was wonderful. Okay, and you're going to go back and do what you what you were doing before.
Back to business. A lot of times they've already made the decision before they bring that to the table.
Yeah, and it's a display. Mm-hmm. And for you as a person of color coming on and saying, okay, well, this was great. I feel included. Yeah, you're not really included. And I think, again, you need to know that. If you know that up front, mm-hmm. and you, again, back to the circle again, playing the game, I'll give my input so that I don't seem standoffish and I don't, but I know it's not going to make a difference.
And see, I as a black man in corporate America, you've got to be careful. For instance, I had a job years ago where had a white female I was reporting to. Mm-hmm. Now, her predecessor, the white male, my review, I got, I think, 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
She comes aboard. Next review, I get like a 3 or something like that in a span of 6 months. Hmm. And if I looked at her history, and it came to the point where the guy, my predecessor in my job, he had gotten let go because he was under her in a different in a different capacity. Mm. So you start looking at, wait a minute, and he had a strong personality, whereas I don't consider myself having a strong personality, but I think that if you deal with me long enough, that I'm gonna be a straight shooter.
Yeah, agreed.
And whether it's an asset or a liability, I'm still trying to find that middle ground. Mm-hmm. Because I've been told sometimes my tone is intimidating. I could give less than 2 damns. But in a situation like that, because you have so many Caucasians in corporate America, it's frustrating because you say to yourself, where you want to be, but you can't get there because there's so many obstacles. You jump over one hoop, then they put another one out there.
Yeah, the goalpost is always moving.
Exactly. Yep. So, Brandon, my question to you on this is, how do you successfully navigate being where you are? Are you satisfied with where you're currently at in corporate America?
I would say I'm satisfied, but again, you say like the goalpost is moving, and I see that there is a goalpost, and then I just focus on what my goalpost is. So I think that's a big thing too, and driving back to the purpose. I know what my job wants of me, and then I know what I want on my end as well. So,
but if that moves, to Carl's point, if the goalpost is moved, you constantly chasing it. And if you become a mentor to somebody, how do you impress upon a mentee? Mm-hmm. This is something you got to be ready for.
Yeah, and again, I know I kind of stir the feathers saying you got to work harder. There might be there might be those extra days you might have to skip out on lunch. I'm going to come with that. And it's, not one shoe fits all, but I'm going to tell you, find what your career goals are and work toward those.
So you're fine with saying then that as a black man in corporate America, you can ascend, you can climb that ladder.
Yes, but it's not easy.
Okay.
And you're going to have to work hard. I hate to say it, you're going to have to work hard.
Carl?
I think you need to find, like you said, find a goal. You can climb. I don't want you to be Pollyannic in your climb, though. Just
Good point.
find a goal, and I think you can get to a certain level of success.
I mean, for me, I'm still holding true. You know, I don't think that as a black man you can climb that ladder in corporate America. I think that if you're going to be there, you either find your sweet spot or you build your own.
Yeah.
And I think I would be more inclined to want to build my own, or to say to people, you can build your own. And that way you can bring people in. You can bring in who you want to bring, because that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's what they've done historically. And I'm not trying to discourage anybody, but I think you have to be your true, authentic self in this. And you have to say, okay, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, you can't go at it alone.
No.
You're going to need some help.
Takes a village.
And that's why I say that, you know, it's incumbent upon us as black men, you know, to pay it forward. You know, to anytime I come across a young guy, you know, and they want to do this, that, and the third, if it's involving any goals that you may have, I try to impart as much wisdom as I can because of my experiences. But for me, I'm not sold on corporate America.
Yeah, I understand.
You know,
100%.
and again, I don't think in my lifetime I'm going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I just want to say, you know, this is something, a conversation that we will continue to have.
Absolutely.
So again, guys, thanks for being with us. Just want to say, you know, be prayerful, be positive, be patient, and be peaceful. Thanks. See you next time.